Hey guys, this video is going to go over dividing integers. So what I want you to do is you need to make sure you're taking notes on this. You can either do them in your notebook or you can take screenshots and put them in a file in Notability and make sure you title it Dividing Integers. Don't just leave the screenshots in your camera roll. Put it in Notability and give it this title. Alright, so when you guys first learned how to multiply, you found out that multiplying and dividing are related. So like if I gave you a multiplication problem, 2 times 3, you could tell me that that equals 6. Now, if I asked you to write the related division problem, what you could do is you could take this product, the answer, and you could divide it by both of these numbers, okay? And it should equal the other one. So I could do 6, I can divide by 2, that would give me 3. Or I could take this 6 again, I could divide by this number, divide by 3, and that has to give you the other number that's left, 2. So multiplying and dividing, again, are pretty related to each other. The two numbers that you multiply give you this product, and you can take the product, divide by one of the numbers, you get the other number. So we're going to take a look and see if we can see how this works for negative numbers and if we can figure out some rules. Alright, so our first one says negative 3 times 4. So I know 3 times 4 is 12, and I know a negative times a positive is a negative because it's two different signs. Okay, now I want to try to write some related division problems. So like we did in the first one, you can take that number, negative 12. I can divide it by either of these. I'll just take the 4. I can divide it into 4 groups. That should give me the other one that's left over, negative 3. Or I can take that number again, negative 12. I can divide it by this number, divide by negative 3, and it should give me this first number. So basically, I have two problems here, and I want you to see what you notice. I have a negative divided by a positive. I get a negative answer. I have a negative divided by a negative. I get a positive answer. So what do you think? Do you think you can figure out what the rules are for dividing integers? All right, let's take a look at another one. So I have negative 3 times negative 5 is 15. So a negative times a negative is a positive. So if I take a look at this one, again, I'm going to take my product, 15. I can divide it by one of my factors, negative 5. That should give me the other one, which is negative 3. Okay, I can do it again. I can start with my 15. I can divide by this one this time, negative 3. And I should get my other one, which is negative 5. So I want you to take a look at these two problems I just wrote. They're two division problems. 15 divided by negative 5, so a positive and a negative gives me a negative. And a positive and a negative gives me a negative when I divide. So now do you think you've got the rules figured out? Alright, now that you've seen a couple problems related to multiplication, let's look at what happens when I use integer chips. So my problem is negative 15 divided by 3. So in a division problem, this first number tells you what you start with. So it says start with 15 negative chips. Down here I drew 15 negatives, you can see those. Okay, it says divide, so basically that means split into this many groups. So this is the number of groups. It says split it into 3 even groups. So I need to take these integer chips and split it into 3 groups, even groups. If I take 15 divided by 3, it's going to give me 5 in each group. So I'll just kind of draw it out, 3 separate groups. Okay, now to get my answer, I can see, well, how many are in each group? Well, there's negative 5 in that group, negative 5 in that group, negative 5 in that group. So my answer is negative 5. So the answer to this division problem, negative 15 divided by 3, gives me negative 5. Alright, so I'm hoping that you kind of noticed that the rules for dividing are actually the exact same as the rules for multiplying. So we're going to fill this in, and again, you do need this in your notes. So first one, a positive divided by a positive, that's still going to be a positive. Okay, an example would be 4 divided by 2 equals 2. Second one, if you have a negative divided by a negative, it's going to be a positive. Again, this is the same as the multiplying rules. So if I do negative 4 divided by negative 2, it's going to give me positive 2. The third one, if you have one of each, if I have a positive and negative, so if I have different signs, it's going to be negative. So if I do let's do positive 10 divided by negative 2 is going to give me negative 5. Okay, and then the last one, again, if I have different signs, again, it's going to be negative. So if I did negative 10 divided by 2, it's going to give me negative 5. All right, so here's our rules for dividing. Again, it's the exact same as multiplying. All right, I have 3 problems here, and I just want to point out that these 3 problems are 3 different ways to write division. So if you look at this first problem, if you were going to read this, it says negative 20, and then this line here can mean divide. Okay, so again, that line means divide. So it says negative 20 divided by 2. Okay, well, I can figure out the answer to that now. I know 20 divided by 2 is 10. And then I have 2 different signs, so it's negative. Now remember, this is only for multiplying and dividing. Okay, let's look at the second one. It says negative 10 divided by negative 5. So I just use the symbol. The reason I have parentheses here is because I just want you to know that that's a negative. So I'm going to do 10 divided by 5, which is 2. And then I need to think a negative divided by a negative is a positive. So my answer is 2. All right, the next one, here's another way to write division, and this line right here can also mean divide. All right, so I'm going to do 20 divided by negative 4. Well, 20 divided by 4 is 5, and I notice there's 2 different signs, so it's negative. And there's my final answer. All right, I want you to push pause, and I want you to try these 3 in your notebook or in Notability, and then push play to check your answers. All right, first one, you should get 20 divided by 2 is 10, and then you have 2 different signs, so it's negative. Second one, 30 divided by 3 is 10, and then I have a negative divided by a negative, which makes it a positive. Third one, 16 divided by 4 is 4, and I have 2 different signs, so it's going to be a negative 4. So here's your answers. Please fix them if you did not get them correct. All right, here we have a type of problem that you're going to see quite a bit. It's working with integers. It says the temperatures for a whole week were the following. And I list some temperatures: negative 2 degrees, 7 degrees, 10, 12, 6, negative 2, and 0. Okay, the directions say find the mean temperature. All right, first thing you have to know is what does mean in math? Mean is another word for average. If you need to add that to your notes, please do so. So to find average, what you do is you add up all the numbers, okay, and then you divide by how many there are. Okay, so if we take a look at this, we need to add all of these up. So it's the same as if I put plus symbols between all of these. So that's our very first step, just to add these. All right, so when I add, usually I like to add the positives first. So let's kind of take a look at it. I have negative 2. Circle this in a different color. Negative 2 and negative 12 and negative 2. That would be 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 negatives. Okay, I use those. I'm going to cross them off. Okay, I'm going to put my positives together. I have 10 and then 7 and 6. Well, 6 and 7, that's 13, plus 10 is 23. Plus I have 0. That's neither positive nor negative, so I don't even need to worry about a 0. So I have 23 here. Okay, my next step, okay, now this is adding, so don't follow the multiplying rules. You have to think, I can't put negatives and positives together. So I need to figure out what do I have more of. I have more positives, so my answer is positive. And then I need to do 23 take away 16. Okay, well, I'll subtract that. I end up with 7. Now that is not your final answer. Okay, remember the steps say you need to add up your numbers and divide by how many numbers there were. So I was given 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 temperatures, so I need to divide by 7. Well, 7 divided by 7 is 1. So my average temperature was 1 degree. All right, I have a couple problems I want you guys to try. So again, please push pause. I want you to try these 7 problems. When you finish trying them, push play to see if you're correct. All right, so let's check these out. First one should be a positive 10. A negative times a negative is a positive. Second one should be negative 12. Again, because you have 2 different signs. Third one should be a negative 10. Again, 2 different signs. Number 4 should be negative 5. 2 different symbols. Number 5 should be negative 4. Again, do 2 different symbols. And number 6 should be positive 5 because you have a negative divided by a negative, which is a positive. All right, finally, number 7, on a problem like this, I just want to let you know that you need to go from left to right. All right, so let's go straight across. If you have more than two numbers, you just do the first two first. Now, dividing, it does matter the order you go. You have to go left to right. So I'm going to do this part first. So negative 20 divided by negative 2, that's a positive 10. And then I have 10 divided by negative 5. Okay, well, I know 10 divided by 5 is 2. And then I have two different signs, a positive and a negative, so it's going to be negative. So there's my answer to number 7. All right, our next problems are ones where you have to evaluate the expression. Okay, and it tells you that A is negative 18 and B is negative 6. So for the first thing, I want to let you guys know, you do have to write these out. So if it says A divided by B, you need to fill in what those are and rewrite the problem. So A is negative 18 divided by B is negative 6. Okay, now you can work that out. I know a negative divided by a negative is a positive, and 18 divided by 6 is 3. So there's my answer. All right, let's try the second one. Okay, I'm going to draw my division line. Okay, it says A, so I'm going to fill in a negative 18 plus 6 over 3. Okay, if you have one like this, you need to do what's on top of this line first. So I'm going to do negative 18 plus 6. So negative 18 plus 6, now remember, I can't put negatives and positives together. So they're going to cancel each other out. I'm going to be left with negative, more negatives, 12 more. Then I'm going to divide by 3. Remember, this line means divide. So 12 divided by 3 is 4. And if I look, I have a negative and a positive, so my answer is negative 4. Okay, let's try one more. All right, it says B squared, so I'm going to rewrite that. Negative 6, because that's B, I have to square it, divided by A, which is negative 18, and then plus 4. All right, when I work one out like this, I'm going to do on top of this fraction bar first. So I need to do negative 6 squared. That means negative 6 times negative 6, just as a refresher. Okay, well, I know a negative times a negative is a positive 36. And then it says divided by negative 18. Okay, so again, I just took this here, I wrote it down here. Well, 36 divided by 18 is actually 2. And then a positive divided by negative is a negative 2. And then I can't forget this plus 4 at the end. Now I can add 4 to that. Okay, if you think about that, it's a negative 2 plus 4. That'd be like 2 negatives, 4 positives. You can't put those together, so remember, they kind of cancel each other out. So my final answer for that one is positive 2. All right, last one here. It says, which of these does not belong with the other 3 and why? So I want you to look at these 3. See if you can figure out which one does not belong. So push pause and push play when you're ready to look at it. All right, the first one, let's kind of just work it out. Remember, this line can mean divide. Okay, so 10 divided by negative 5, I know that is negative 2. Okay, let's look at this one. This one says negative 10 divided by 5. Well, a negative divided by positive is a negative. Negative 2. So far, the first two are the same. Now, let's look at this one. This one says negative 10 divided by negative 5. A negative divided by a negative is a positive 2. And finally, the last one says, well, let's do inside those parentheses. So I'm going to do inside there. 10 divided by 5 is 2. And then there's a negative sign out front. So negative 2. So which one does not belong? Looks like this one because it gives you an answer of 2. All right, so hopefully you feel comfortable with dividing integers now. Please make sure you took good notes and you have examples. Your notes should be in your notebook or in Notability. If you put it in Notability, you should have quite a few notes. And you make sure you save it under dividing integers. Give it a title. Okay, so make sure you put those notes in Notability if you didn't do them in your notebook. Okay, now that you're done, you may work on the worksheet. You can find that in Schoology, right where you found the video. So you can work on that worksheet either in Notability or in your notebook. And then if you finish that, I have some other things listed that you can work on as well.